Let's get the show on
Welcome
the road,
to,
as my dad would say.
right. Welcome to Inspirational Journeys, everybody. My name is Ann Harrison, and today I have the pleasure of speaking to Debra. You're going to have to pronounce your last name because I don't want to mess it up.
Taubenslag.
Taubenslag. Okay, I wanted to say Taubenslag. Thank you.
Well, you said it pretty good.
Yeah, okay,
It
cool.
actually means dove keeper.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so awesome. So, yeah,
I
we
know.
are doing this. Her book releases January 17th on the day that you are hearing this. Welcome to the show, Deb.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Anne.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, first of all.
Well, I'm a mom, but I'm more than a mom. And it took me a long time to realize that, because when you're a mother of a special needs child, your whole world turns upside down, and you do whatever you need to do to just get them to grow and to mature and to be their best that they could possibly be. And sometimes when their needs come way before ours, and then everything else that your needs are just falls back in the wayside. And I forgot who I was until my journey took me to other world realities. I had to learn hypnosis and massage and energy healing because I didn't like the odds that the doctors gave me. The prognosis for him was terrible. They told me that if he survived, he would never walk because of the cerebral palsy, and he would be severely cognitive disabled. And he was my only child, and I was told initially I would never have children. So I said, no, there has to be another way. I untapped the unused portion of the brain because I felt we had to. And that's my story. His journey became my story, and my journey and my purpose and his purpose. And we've experienced so many miracles along the way. So I just wrote that book one day because I needed to share that message of hope and inspiration and to not give up.
And I was really inspired by your book. I write fiction. I write, nonfiction on a short form level with poetry and my freelance stuff. I write fiction, but the spiritual thing. I read your book, the art that you gave me. The spiritual things, it's deeper than what I go through, but I'm also a spiritual person. So I do have to ask, what inspired you to write the book or to be a writer to begin with?
I never ever thought I was a writer before. I'm on parent support groups in Facebook, and I would see so many, oh my goodness, so many messages that were so discerning to me and heartbreaking to me. And there was people saying that I want to die, or they're saying, I wish my child would die. And it was just terrible. So I just said, oh, I just have to write down, what I did, because I believe that just because I did it, that good things just don't happen to me. It could happen to anyone, as long as you open your mind to try new things and to be inspirational and not to forget who you are in the process. And, but when I had to bring my parents up from Florida, then I had to caretake for them for 4 years. And it was truly a labor of love. I loved looking after them and wanting to help them in any way I could. And I put the book aside. I didn't think anything about it. And it wasn't until after both of them passed, I really felt my father's presence, and I felt him nudge me and nudge me. And he was an English teacher besides a drama teacher.
Oh, wow.
And he inspired many, many students. And I just felt that he was the one who was making me feel driven to write this story. So I did. And it just, what's funny, because I felt like it was channeled, like it just flowed. I never had any writer's block. It just kind of happened. And I'm grateful that it did, because if it wasn't sure, I don't think it would have been written. And that's my truth.
Sometimes God leads us down paths and gives us these spiritual experiences to show us something. So
that's the truth. Go ahead.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, I know you talked about using music therapy and sound healing for your son, for Nick. Did you ever think about the singing bowl?
That's interesting that you said that, because I've attended many singing bowls, and so has my son. And, he always says, oh my goodness, I feel such tremendous vibration. And he loved it until I went to his neurosurgeon, because he has a shunt. And he said, well, you better be careful, because, that vibrational sound can actually change the programmable shunt. He said, your son isn't even supposed to be wearing headphones. And I thought, oh my goodness. So we had to stop that. But yeah, I mean, that's how powerful it is,
Right. I
because
was
we
thinking
resonate
for
with frequency
you.
all the time.
Right. If you want me to, and people have seen this, but I'll show you while we're on this.
Okay.
I have one of these babies.
Oh, yes. And how often do you use it?
I try to use it every day, but sometimes I'll forget. But a lot of times when I'm writing and I can't think, or when I'm stressed, I will use it. And because we're talking about spiritual things, sometimes it seems like the bowl speaks to me.
Yes. Yes, I understand.
Write your story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, because the bowl, and I think the bowl speaks to you, is because when you almost go into a meditative state, because I'm actually like moving around as if you were stirring, the stick that you use to create the sound. So you and the bowl become one, and it puts you in that alpha, perhaps even theta state, that altered state of consciousness.
Right.
And that's how you're able to connect to your divine source within.
Right.
Get the inspiration that you write your beautiful poetry. I believe that.
Thank you so much.
Well, I believe that, perhaps you have like the wonderful ancient poets that are channeling, their wisdom through you as well. I believe that
possible.
Yeah, I think so.
Gives me this, and like I said, I've had some spiritual experiences, not through hypnosis, but I have had some spiritual experiences that I don't tell a lot of people because a lot of people don't understand. But I believe that it's God. I pray before I play the bowl. I pray that God will bless me with the abilities He wants me to have.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful thing. It's gotten me through some tough times.
Oh, absolutely.
Music and writing.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially.
And I'm sure that you're a lot more intuitive than you're willing to admit.
I know that I'm intuitive. I'm a Pisces, for one.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure.
And I have a very dear friend. Well, I'm going to give a shout out to Tish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's in our group. She's in Diana's group. Yeah, I'm going to give a shout out to her. And because we both write fiction, we have a very unique story about one of my characters.
So your character came to you through your higher mind?
No. She came to my character. Came to her.
Oh, wow.
And she
that's amazing.
Her energy. And I'm like, that's the first time I've ever seen that happen.
Well, but you know what? Maybe because you have a very special spiritual connection to Tish, and you had some type of mental telepathy, a soul connection, where she was able to actually, I mean, when people go to therapists, there's transference. We know that. And even when you're an empath, I remember when I was doing massage therapy, I would feel people's, physical aches and pains and their TMJs, and I had to stop massage therapy. So with writing, she was able to pick up on your intuitive writing and your characterization. And I think that's pretty profound and wonderful. She's obviously a very spiritually connected friend of yours, like almost like a soul sister, I bet.
That's what I'm thinking, because we're like sister. We built a sisterhood. I mean,
yes.
We've got our own community, and that's why it helps. And I mean, this is about you, but I had to share that because it was so amazing to me. And I felt, and I prayed before I did it. So I felt, that's one of the reason I share that is because if you have a writing partner that you're a writing friend, writing buddy, an accountability partner that you are so close to, and they sense what you're writing, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, Don't
That's
take
right.
that for granted.
That's right. Because it's more than just a soul sister or a soul connection. You're on the same page, no pun intended, where you're actually able, you have the same insightful wisdom where you're able to read each other's thoughts and really help each other create. Because I
Right.
think at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is how well we loved. And that's including how well we love ourselves. And if writing, helps you to feel so inspirational and purposeful and feel that you've accomplished, and it's the word of God, isn't it?
Right. The Holy
Yeah.
Spirit what gave her that. And at first I thought it wasn't fair because the character was going to her, but yet the character knew this story, I think, and I know this is about you and your book, and I don't mean to go
It's
into mine for
okay.
you.
It's okay. We're talking about writing and how we get our inspiration. That's
Right,
fine.
right. Okay, yeah, because I love the engaging conversation, and I just feel led to go down this path. So, but what I was saying was, it's like this story is deeper, and it could be a very deep, very healing. Even though it's fiction and it's a mystery, there could be a lot of healing for somebody. And this character, she's a psychologist in this book. She's not a main character. And I thought she was just a side character, but no. She ends up being one of the primary characters, which surprised me. And see, I was sick with cellulitis. When you're hearing this would be back in November, but for me and you, last week. And it's like the character knew that I was sick.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh gosh, we could go down a lot of different paths
Oh,
there.
yeah. Well, I believe that when we come up with ingenious ideas, and we think it's our imagination, and, I mean, I've never written any fiction, you have. Um, but so your imagination really goes to town, so to speak. But I believe that in information and imagination is inspired information.
Right. God helped
Yes,
me create this character.
yes,
Very
yes.
dynamic. So there's something about that I need to really.
Well, what you're doing, well, then you meditate and you do your bowls, or you do, maybe you just, when you meditate, you ask for guidance and you see how it plays. But I believe that we're always channeling inspiration. I really believe that, because all the stories, they're teachable moments, aren't they?
Yes, they are. And you inspired me when I read your book because I have a supernatural character in this book.
Thank you.
You really
It's,
did.
there's so many, stories that I did not include in the book, but the one that really, I guess, really shocked me the most is when I, did help my son in spiritual hypnosis, and he was so antagonistic about his own self. He used to say, "Oh, I hate my brain," or he used to say, "Oh, I'm so frustrated, I hate my life." And that's when I would always, when you want to hug him and assure him, and he's like, "Oh, you don't count." Moms never count when they get to be a certain age, because they want the admiration and the acceptance from their peers.
Right.
And he wasn't accepting himself until one day in spiritual hypnosis. And I just say, go where you need to go, wherever that may be for your highest good. He went, besides going into many different past lives, when he went into the afterlife, the life between lives state, he really shocked me when he told me he was in a body selection room. And this is what you read. And this was
Yeah.
one that I will always
Like,
remember.
wow.
So that's what I said. I said, tell me about it. And he said, there are 4 bodies I could have chosen for this particular incarnation with you. And the first was a very strong male with no issues. And he said, no, that's not the one for me, because I need to learn very specific lessons. And then the next one was way too challenging for him. And he said, no, I'm not strong enough. I can't do it, and I don't want to do it. Then a female body, and he said, this one's acceptable, but I need to be male in this incarnation with you. And then the one he's in now. And he said, it is just the amount of challenges I need, as well is, the ability to be with you. And he said, this is the one I'm selecting. And, and I was in shock about that because I didn't realize that we had that opportunity in the spiritual world. I mean, I knew that there was such tremendous abundance, but I didn't realize that, that we could have a selection of bodies. I knew circumstances, and that's what I believe with astrology, that astrology in our natal birth plan is our blueprint of what we want to accomplish, our lessons, and also our gifts and talents and the people that we come back with time and time again. But what that particular session did, it finally gave him the comfort to say, okay, now I know. Now I know. I don't have to hate myself anymore. And he embraced who he was. And it made and his life changed dramatically after that. And that was the gift he gave himself, acceptance. So I was grateful. I was so grateful for that experience. Very deep, very spiritual, and yet so profound.
And I couldn't put the book down. I'm going to be honest with you. When it comes out, you guys have got to go get this book, because this one is one that, especially if you're a spiritual person, or if you're facing challenges, whether you have a disability, you have a child with a disability facing challenges, you will definitely gain insight.
Thank you.
From this book, because it really, it spoke to me on a deeper level. And I read books a lot, not only for research and, for inspiration for my own writing, but I read different books for different podcasts. And this one just, it resonated with me. It inspired me.
Well, that was my hope and intention, to just inspire and to hope and to open up hearts and to open up minds. And, we have enough craziness in the world right now. And,
Right.
if people just opened up their hearts and minds just a little bit more to what could be, I love Dr. Joe Dispenza because he, wrote this wonderful book called The Placebo Effect. And we know that the placebo effect works just as good as all the pharmaceutical drugs that they're up against in the testing points. But they work because of the belief. If you believe it is, then it is. And if you believe, no, it can't be, then it won't be. Einstein said we just use such a tiny portion of our brains. I mean, the potential is huge. But it's our thoughts that create that potential and our outcomes. And that's what I was really hoping to inspire, because my story is a really true story. And I believe that I'm not exceptional. I just didn't want to give up. And I'm still searching and I'm still trialing. And it's probably going to be for the rest of my life, because there's so much out there.
Right. So tell me about your process with this one. Did you outline it, or did you just write from the heart? How did that work?
It was both. Initially, I just wrote an outline, and it was a very, very simple outline. It was chronological, and then the book just wrote itself. It really did. And it was like and I think many writers can feel this way when I say it's almost like dialoguing with yourself, like a journal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I can probably say that this book is like a very personal journal or diary in a way, because, I'm a very private person, and yet I really exposed myself.
Right. And I love your conversational style too. It's like you were telling us what was going on, not like journaling with dates and things. You were telling us what was going on and what you had to do it, but you did it like, it was like you were sitting there with me explaining the whole thing.
Yeah. I was pretty raw and honest and truthful, and, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And because, life is that way, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, we experience all different types of emotions, and it's what we do with those emotions and how we grow. That's what matters.
Right.
And I believe we're always on a spiritual journey to just keep growing in a beautiful, purposeful way. And I think part of that journey is always about self-love.
So do you have any advice for aspiring authors?
My advice is to just trust in yourself and to write, to dialogue with yourself, dialogue with your character, and to envision it, and then just do it. Just allow it to
Characters
flow.
talk to me all the time.
Yeah. And
it's
if
like I can see it's like one of them when they really want to talk to me is standing right to my beside my right shoulder.
Well, isn't that interesting? And do you see the character? Do you feel the character? Hear the character?
Yes.
Well, and you're using all of your clairs, your clairvoyance, which is the clear seeing, and the clairaudient, which is the clear hearing, the clairsentient, which is the feeling, and the claircognizance, which is knowing. It's all very spiritual and intuitive and psychic. So these books, who knows, maybe your characters are from other lifetimes because they're really a part of you, or maybe they're guided from your guides and teachers, for them to be very inspirational.
Right, and I've learned that they're reflections. They may not be like me, but they're reflections of me.
Yeah, how wonderful is that?
I'm a spiritual person, so I have to write a spiritual. And I have to write that supernatural element in there. It's hard not to. I mean, I write it's Christian fiction. I love mystery, so I'm gonna dabble in fantasy too at some point. But I'm really a mystery buff, romantic suspense, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I also, because of my experiences, I have to put that supernatural character in there.
Well, it's interesting because you said the Christian literature, and I'm not Christian, but I love Christian literature because it speaks about love, and I love Christian music because it speaks about love, and whether it's Jesus or Mary or whoever is speaking to you, I think or to other authors out there, it's always about love.
The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, right?
So. Yeah, and I think I always like to say that there are many flowers in God's garden, and a rose is just as beautiful as a daffodil.
I love that.
Well, it's true. We all know that, and isn't that really what the message is with all books? Even if they're thrillers and mysteries, because they get us outside of ourselves, they get us to think, they get us to, inspire us. Yeah, that's right. And stories are how most people learn. That's because stories bypass the critical conscious mind. Stories is what impacts us so magnificently that's why we cried when E.T. came on the screen and he wanted to go home.
I know.
Our conscious critical mind said, it's just Steven Spielberg's,
No, but it's the emotional experience.
That's right. It's the story.
It's the emotional experience that readers want. That's what we do.
Yes.
That's what we provide. And if our coaches can give us that, and I get inspired through dreams too. I don't know if you do, but I do.
Let me ask you this. How do you even remember your dreams? Because most people don't remember the dreams.
Some of them I don't, but what's really interesting is there are elements in the dream that may not have anything to do with the book, but they stand out.
Yes.
They absolutely stand out.
Well, that's how you know it's a psychic dream, Anne. When they stand out, when it's very crystal clear and there's, where you see in Technicolor, oh yeah, there's a heavy duty spiritual intuitive message there.
Because I'm totally blind and I call what I use inner vision. I may not see colors in real life. I may not see, excuse me. I may not see the sun, the sun. I mean, I can see the light, but I can't see because I have light perception. I may not see colors. But I can see
them in your dreams.
Right. And I can see things playing like a movie in my head.
I am so sorry. I forgot to turn off my phone.
I like that ringer though.
My brother teases me. He says, "Oh, it sounds like airy fairy, like Tinkerbell Stardust."
Well,
And
I
I
mean,
said,
but
"It works for me. That's
yeah, it
okay."
does. It's like I have
Yeah.
chimes on mine, but anyway, that's beside the point. But still, I mean, and I mean, everybody's process is different. But
Hmm.
writing is so, and it is therapy, and it is cathartic too.
Yes.
It's
It's
cathartic
very
and
cathartic.
therapeutic.
It's a
So, do you have any
wonderful
other
thing. And
questions? Go ahead.
well, I just wish that that in schools that they would teach more about creative writing and to really launch that gift that we all have. I believe that everyone is a writer. I really believe that. But it's like playing a musical instrument. Practice makes perfect, but you also
Right.
have to be willing to almost step aside out of your ego to allow the inspiration to come through you. And I think if students were taught at a very early age that what they write is beautiful and it's creative and to just, not for it to be judged, I think that's what holds a lot of people back, fear of judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. You're right. So, do you have any other questions for me?
Oh, I just think that you're awesome. I love that you write all different genres, including poems. And I'm
Yes, I love
glad
that
that
part.
you're sharing them to the world.
I have a story to tell you about that because I'm going to actually do a poetry book launch because my audiobook came out. I wanted to
Oh,
share
how
that
I
with
know,
everybody.
how wonderful.
Yeah, it did come out. But I'm doing and of course when you hear this will have already happened. But because I'm airing this later. But tonight I'm doing a book launch party for the audiobook with my narrator and her collaborator. So but yeah, and I kept saying I can't write poetry. It's really rare. And then, of course, Jen Lowry from the Jen Lowry Writes podcast. I'm sure you've heard this story before, but I'm going to tell you anyway, again, because some of you may not have the new subscribers. She, in April of 2019, she laid down a challenge. At first, it was a 50-word story, which mine ended up being 51. And she talked about mermaid fingernails, these long seashells that I don't know exactly what they look like, but I know she described them, and she said her niece called them mermaid fingernails. That inspired a story which morphed into a poem.
Mm.
And I kept saying, I can't do this. This is rare. Well, let's just say the more
You
I kept
challenged
saying I
yourself.
can't, huh?
As you challenged yourself.
Right. But the more I kept saying I can't, the more I kept proving I can.
Yes.
And my poetry book shows that. And then I write other poems and put them on my blog too.
See, it was meant to be because some
Right.
people really, really resonate with poetry more than they do with a novel or a story.
Right.
You know,
And that's
it's
and
the
one of my
Renaissance people.
right. But one of my the novel that I've got to edit it, but I did put a poem in there. It was a song she wrote. And I've written a couple of songs too. I started one. I've written several, but they didn't, go very far. But I started one. I wrote one that I'm really proud of. And then I
Mm.
wrote a second one. I'm working on that. That's my iPad, sorry. I'm working on a second one, but sometimes I get distracted or things change and I'll get back to it and the melody will start up in my head again and you know. So poetry is another one of those things I like to write, but I also like to write my fiction because that's another creative side of me.
Well, what you're doing is you're listening to your higher self. You're realizing that you're a multifaceted diamond and that you're able to channel in many different creative experiences, whether it's poetry or writing or crocheting or knitting that you do or songwriting. and
Mhm.
and what you're doing is you're listening to your higher self at different stages of your life and saying, okay, you look at life as an adventure. And, every new experience is something that will give you joy. And if it doesn't, you reminded me when you said, every time I thought I can't do something, I realized that I could. My dad used to say that the only thing that gets in your way is the letter T in can't. And he was right. And you learned that easily and
It's,
quickly. So
it's funny.
that's a wonderful thing, that you listen
Right. And what's
to your higher self to say, oh, try this. And then you just go for it, because you realize there's nothing to lose. You have
right.
an experience. And even if you screw up, oh, well, it was just an experience. I
Right.
mean, look, yeah.
What's funny about that is I'll tell myself I can't do something just to talk myself into doing it.
Well, that's right, because you like to challenge yourself.
Exactly.
That's
It's
right.
that reverse psychology.
That's right. And I think most writers, they love the downtime and the silence, and to be able to be one with self, to be able to just become one, where their brain and their fingers are just so connected, and where the story just writes itself.
Right. And I'll go out on my porch or my steps and listen to my wind chimes when the weather fits, because I love the wind chimes.
Yeah.
And I get inspiration from them.
That's right. So sound is obviously very important to you.
Sound and touch. I mean, I have my sense of smell and taste, but smell is kind of, a little wonky anyway. But sound and touch, because I can pick up on certain scents. Certain scents I can pick up on, but my mother will ask me if I smell a certain scent and a foul smell or something like that, and I'm either desensitized to it or I don't detect it.
Okay. Well,
So
it's obviously not a primary important, sense for you.
Right.
Obviously,
Sound and touch are the primary ones.
And I also think that you have a knowing. I think you have a very clear knowing, like your gut instinct.
Right.
And I also feel that you do, like you said about your inner vision.
Right.
You can feel, you told me already, you feel your characters standing right next to you. You hear them speak to you, and you can see maybe, in the description what they're wearing, what they're doing,
right.
Yeah.
I can see this character in heels.
Exactly.
Not heels, like flats in a jumpsuit.
Well, you can just see it. That's right. In your mind's eye.
A red jumpsuit.
That's right. That's right. And I think the more that you trust your intuitive guidance when you're in the writing process, the more profound, and where you just look and say, wow, I wrote that. And I think that's a good thing. It's about trust, and it's about allowing the intuition to come through.
I know. It's like that time I was teaching myself how to play keyboard. I have to share this story. And I know, like I said, this is supposed to be about you, but we're in engaging conversation, so.
It's okay.
Listeners, you guys will enjoy this too. But I was teaching myself how to play keyboard. I quit doing it because of carpal tunnel, and I just couldn't grasp any further than beginner. But I was listening to a sample piece on the Casio that my aunt had given me years ago. I started playing, I remember the beginning and the end, but I do not remember playing the middle.
Isn't that interesting? So you probably, I feel that when we zone out,
I did.
We go into a very deep state of consciousness. That's what I feel.
I remember standing there playing, and I'm wondering if I played what I remembered, by just by memorization, or did I play something totally different than what I was supposed to?
Did you record? Did you at least record it?
No, and that's the sad part about it. I wish I had now, because the music just took me with it.
Well, see, that's how profound music can be as far as healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are some pieces, and I like all different genres of music, except I don't particularly care for heavy metal. In fact,
me neither.
It's funny because I'll use the dowsing rods, like I'll show you here. I have dowsing rods, and I can actually measure auric fields, and I use this with my son all the time. And we also can measure how different pieces of music affect him as far as mentally, emotionally, and physically. But we can also measure his thoughts as well. So if I say, show me my yes,
What is
show
a
me my
dowsing rod?
no. Okay. So if I think of something negative, like if I'm thinking about all the craziness that's happening in the world, and I think that right now, and the coronavirus and the election and the hate and the riots and all the nuttiness that's happening, and I'm feeling it, how is my body reacting to it? Is it taking the negativity in my body when I think these thoughts?
Right. What is a
Yes,
dowsing
it
rod?
does. Yes, it does. So my point is that not only do our own internal thoughts affect us, but the world around us. That's why I try not to listen to the news,
I know,
because
me neither. Me neither.
it's
I'm the
so
same.
disturbing. And I know that it affects us on a very physical level, and obviously we know how it affects us emotionally and mentally, but it can really harm us.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't be an ostrich. That's not good either. But what we can do, you know, we can pray and visualize a more harmonious situation, where people are getting along, people are having conversations, people are willing to respect each other again and respect that we're different, and that's okay.
Right.
We're many
So,
flowers in God's garden.
right. So explain what is the dowsing rod, because I've never heard of that.
Dowsing rods are what dowsers use to find water or to find oil in wells. I just use it to reach the subconscious mind. Sometimes I use a pendulum. See, there's my yes. And it said yes because I use a pendulum, right? And then, obviously, when I'm dowsing, oh, there we go, because I thought of no, because I said, show me my no. So it's not a fortune teller. It doesn't do that. But what it does do is, because your subconscious mind, we have an automatic nervous system, and our nervous system and things that we don't think about, like, our automatically our heart is regulated for the exact beats, our blood flow, our oxygen flow, etc. And our subconscious mind, is actually able, almost like kinesiology, muscle testing.
Heard about it.
It's the same principle. Our subconscious mind is able to tap into our fingertips, which, actually controls the dowsing rods, even though we're not moving it. It's pretty astounding when I teach it, because I do teach, many different types of classes, and have for years and years and years. And I just help people tap into their own intuitive higher self within to
I've got
get the
another
answers that
instrument
they
to
seek.
show you before we close out. You
I'm
see this
sorry, Ann, I
rod?
can't hear you. Say that again.
I said I've got another instrument to show you.
Okay. But I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay, that's
Oh, okay. Yes, I have a tiny little one. I call it the little finger piano.
the karimba. Yes, I bought that at a place called Earthbound.
Yes, yes. I love the name of that too.
I love that karimba too. I play the bowl and then I'll play the karimba. I will find YouTube because another friend of mine, she has a hand pan,
Uh-huh.
and I'll find a YouTube video of a hand pan when I need to really tap into the music, and
Yes.
I'll play along with, or I'll listen to like instrumental. There's a station called the Kansas Breeze, which is a public radio station, and sometimes when I'm listening to that, I will grab the karimba and tap into and I may play rhythms with it while the melody's going, and it may not be right in tune, but I can at least play rhythms. And then I have this rhythm that I play, that really helps me tap into the music. and tap
Well,
into
yes, and
the Holy
it's the
Spirit.
rhythms. It's like the Sufi dancers. You automatically go into trance. And trance is something that we go into throughout our day. That's why hypnosis, people are so afraid of it, but we're in hypnosis throughout the day. And you went into a self-hypnotic trance every time you played that instrument
And it
with
was
your
like,
rhythm.
right. And it was like, it didn't matter whether I messed up. It didn't matter what. I was just going with it.
That's right. That's right. You were
And
resonating with it.
right. And then it opens me up to the creative side of things. I pray before I do it because I don't want to,
Yes.
go against what, I want to make sure that what I'm doing is in line with God's word.
Yes.
And then I play my bowl or my karimba, and sometimes just listening to music, I can get inspired.
Mm-hmm.
But the
Mm-hmm.
chimes are really, especially when the weather's nice, I can really tap into the chimes too, because
Yes.
they speak inspiration. It's hard to explain, but I tell you this because I know that, you understand it
I
as well
do.
because of the book that you've written. So,
I do.
don't take for granted
You
the
know, Ann,
talent.
your way is music. Sometimes I use music, sometimes I use color. Sometimes I use hypnosis, sometimes I use, subtle energies, like aromatherapy or, Reiki or, some form of hands-on healing, things like that. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, I feel that we get inspired to go and use and work with whatever we need in the moment, like Felix the cat going into our little bag of tips and tricks to just give us what we need to either help ourselves or to be of service for someone else.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And music is comforting too. But
Oh yeah.
and like I said, it's just amazing. Don't take for granted those special gifts God has given you. Do
Mm.
not take for granted the intuition, listeners, because God, follow your calling. Follow what God has asked you to do, because when you do, you'll come out the other side of a different person.
Yes.
I don't know if you believe that or not, but I do.
Well, I do. I'm smiling because I love Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce was one of the greatest prophets of our time. And he said that the only way to heaven is on the arm of someone you help, that you don't go to heaven, you grow to heaven. And that's what you said, Anne, in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
You grow to heaven. I love that.
I never thought about that because
Yeah.
it's giving your heart to Jesus and then following his lead.
Well, we all were born with a mission. We all were born with very specific gifts
Mm-hmm.
as well as challenges. And that's because that's how we learn, that's how we grow. And
Right.
yeah, and I always, say that if you're not using your gifts, then you're really, not only are you not serving yourself, but all the people who you were meant to help are the ones who suffer the most.
Right.
Because,
That's
yeah.
why that's why I believe the story I'm writing is going to be deeper than I ever thought.
See, that's a good thing because you're trusting.
Right. And
That's
I'm
right.
using this
And
and I use the snowflake method, which is really helping me tap into my characters.
wonderful. I
Now,
don't know what the snowflake method is. Can you share it?
okay, so, and I do this on the podcast. There's a book out there by Randy Ingermanson. It's called How to Write a Novel Using the Snowflake Method. And if those of you listening have gone through, I've already gone through the first step. But each step, it's I'm gonna go do an overview. The first step, before you do that, you have to your category or your genre. Then you write down the story I want to write is, and then you kind of give an overview of what it's about. Then you say it'll delight my audience. This is why my story. how did I put it? This story will delight my audience because, and that's why you have to know your audience, know your target audience. And Mark Glesney said there are 3 kinds of people. Randy Ingermanson said find one person who you're writing for. Mark Glesney in our Writing Warriors for Jesus writing conference said find 3 people that you're writing for. Identify 3 people. And that, and once you know who those, the genre and the audience are, then you write your 1-sentence summary, which is basically 25 words or less. And sometimes it could be a little longer, but as long as it's a sentence you can memorize to tell your story, your elevator pitch. Whether you're pitching it on social media, you're telling it to your friends or fans, you're talking to someone in an elevator talking about it, that's the 1 sentence. And that's the 1 sentence you use. And the sentence for the story I'm writing now is, after losing her sight in an automobile accident, Katrina Dobson is sent to the Hempstead Center to gain her independence, but uncover secrets during her training. Yes.
So you're leaving your listener, you're setting up the plot and the character, and you're leaving your listeners with suspense. What are those secrets?
Right. And then you write your 1-paragraph summary, and there are certain criteria which I will go over because I am going to record another episode today. I was going to do it yesterday, but I'm going to record another episode and go over that. So, but by the time you're hearing this, I will probably have already done gone through the steps. But you write your 1-paragraph summary, which basically gives an overview of the setting, your lead character or characters, your first act, which is your first disaster, which is the first act of the story, the first half of the second act, which is the second disaster, and it unfolds, it turns the lie that the character believes into a truth and changes that character's way of thinking. Then you write the second half of the second act, which is the third disaster, which with story structure, stuff that I've done too, is the dark night of the soul, where all hope is gone. And then you have to write the final act where a character helps them see that, they need to continue to move forward to get a positive outcome. Then the showdown where the character, which is the showdown where the character confronts the enemy, that final conflict, that climax. And then the resolution. I write mystery, so it's a resolution of a mystery. And then you have either a happy ending, a sad ending, or a bittersweet ending. And it's 5. He says 5 sentences, but mine is like 7. And then you write.
It's okay.
Yeah. Then you write your character summaries. And I'm just doing an overview value, which I'll go into more detail later. But character name, role, goal, value, conflict, epiphany, and then your 1-sentence summary and your 1-paragraph summary of each character, because your main character is a character in your story, but each character has their own stories to tell. So that's why you do, even in the book. So that's why you do that, and then you do your 1-page synopsis, which basically expands your 1-paragraph summary. Then you do a character synopsis, where you tell all your primary characters, you tell their backstory. Then you do a 4-page synopsis, which is where I am. Then you do the character Bible, which is basically asking a lot more questions about the character. And then you do your scene list, where you tell, like, for me, it'd be the chapter 1, scene 1, the scene number, chapter number, scene number, or chapter / you can do this in a spreadsheet. I do chapter / scene number, point of view character, scene descript with 1-sentence scene summary, and then timestamp. And you can do more than that. If you read the book, he goes into more detail. And then you do
and I think it would be very helpful when you go into detail about this on your next podcast, or whenever you're going to do that, is to have a worksheet link that your listeners can download.
I've done that, and I can
follow.
And I can put that in the description again. When I did the first step, the 1-sentence summary week before last, and I can link back to that episode for those that episode and video for those who want to.
Yeah, they can just send you an email and say, or they can say, send me your worksheet.
Right. And there's
Yeah,
actually a
in
link.
this way, it's very value added, information, and you're offering a gift
Right. And
to
you
your
go
fellow
to,
writers.
actually, you go to advancedfictionwriting.com/free, and you can download chapters 19 and 20 of the Snowflake Method book right there on Randy Ingermanson's website.
Sounds good to me.
So I gave them a link to follow, and I'm going to go into detail. Like I said, I just gave you an overview. And then after you do all your scene lists and scene details, that's when you write the novel, but I'm going to do it a little differently.
Okay.
I'm going to work it slightly differently. I'm going to do my scene lists and scene details as I go, because I got part of the manuscript written already. So like I said, that was just a basic overview, but I'm going to go into deeper detail. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so in closing, do you have a favorite Bible verse you want to share?
No, because
Okay.
I am very spiritual. I don't have a man-made religion. God is always in my heart and in my mind, and I have a very intimate personal relationship with God, which has no walls or boundaries.
Well,
And
I'm
so
going to
it's a
share
very
one.
intimate, so uh, I just share, with whoever I'm conversing with, needs to hear. I listen. I hear just like you hear your characters. I hear wisdom and inspiration, and sometimes I'm really surprised what comes out of my mouth, but it's exactly, I can tell by the expression and what they say back. It's what they needed to hear to move forward, and that's good enough for me. Sometimes, I don't have to understand or know, and that's okay, because I'm just the messenger. And that's what I am, and that's why I wrote the book. I'm just the messenger.
Okay, but I want to share one, because my audience is a Christian audience too. And I'm going to share John 3:16 because I feel led to do this. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. That is my verse for the day. Now, if you don't
Thought
mind,
for the day.
Right, that's the verse that I often share. And then I also share Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the thoughts I think towards you, thus saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. And if you don't mind, Deborah, I'm going to close this out in prayer.
Okay.
Heavenly Father,
can I just want to say, I'll let people know that I do have some gifts for them as well.
Okay.
If you log on to my website, and I'll spell it for you because my name is hard, but it does mean Dove Keeper. It's www.Debra, Debra Taubenslag, Taube, E as in Elliot, N as in Nancy, S as in Sam, LAG.com. When you log on, you'll see a little section that says freebies. Just click that. You'll get a beautiful, and I mean beautiful because that's the feedback I've gotten, meditation that's deeply relaxing and healing. And then there's a self-awareness transformational quiz that you take, and you'll gain some insight about yourself. Hopefully you'll have a aha moment, and they're my gifts to you because it's just the right thing to do.
I really do appreciate that. And I was going to ask you before we close out in prayer, where can people find you online? Facebook, Debra Taubenslag, T as in Tom, A, U, B as in boy, E, N, S as in Sam, L as in Larry, A, G as in George.com, or you just type in my name, Debra Taubenslag, and I'll come up. LinkedIn. So those are the places for now. Okay, that's cool. And all of that information will be in the show notes. So,
okay. No, that's good.
Because I do a description on YouTube and the podcast, and I also do show notes for the blog, and I'll send you all those links. All right, so I'm going to close this out in prayer.
Thank you, Ann.
Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this very special time and conversation I've had with Debra. And I pray that you will touch her life in a special way that you see fit, Father. Give her the wisdom and the strength to do what you have called her to do. Father, I also pray for the listeners that what we've said today in this conversation has value to everyone who's listening, everyone who's watching. Touch their hearts in a special way so that they can follow your lead, follow your guidance, and do your blessed will. Lord, I pray that you will lift the coronavirus from this land, Father. Heal our land, Lord, if it be thy will. For Lord, there's so many people have suffered. So many people are suffering. And Lord, we all need your special healing touch. And I pray for those in the path of these tropical storms, Lord, that you will place a protective shield around them, Father. All these things I pray in Jesus' precious and holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Debra. It was great talking
thank you.
to
That
you.
was beautiful.
And we challenge you today to go out there and read to get inspired, write something inspiring, and share your creation with the world. For when you've touched one life, you've touched thousands. Thanks for watching and listening to Inspirational Journeys, and have a blessed day.